to do that, I mean, we'd have to charge like $10, but it would kind of, to me, that would kind of deter people using it as much as a child care center. Plus, it would help, we could help the child. I mean, we could give them, like Steve said, some food, something to drink. Plus, they would also be tagged that if something happened to them, we would know.
But is that what you're there for? Is this a city swimming pool that you pay to go swimming, or is it a daycare facility that happens to have a pool at it that you're feeding the child, making sure they have drinks, and while you're here and we're watching you, you can go swim?
Well,
Yeah, I want
I
to know how many public swimming pools provide that kind of service. I mean, but as a parent, I know if I were to take my child, which, my children are also young and I wouldn't do it, but if I had a 15-year-old and I was taking them to the pool and dropping them off, I would know that they would, have to give them money to get something to drink, to get something to eat. That's not the pool's responsibility.
What's our closing date this year?
I mean, parents do the same thing with skating rinks, for
Remember?
instance. They take them and drop them off and let them skate.
Usually
They don't
around-
expect the skating rink to provide them with beverages and food.
August
But I think the
Additional
problem too,
money.
though, is being outside, though. You're at a
Normally
much greater
around
risk of
August 15th, isn't it, or
dehydration.
something?
We'd intended to stay open through whatever that second weekend of August is. At this point, we're looking for lifeguards. All of the lifeguards say that they can't work past the 1st of August. So we're trying to find some people that could fill in.
I mean,
So this year is almost over, so what I'm getting at. So maybe we should look at this and make new plans for next year.
I would suggest that we need to have a committee to actually explore all of these avenues and make a firm report back to the council.
The only thing I might ask or say from just a medical standpoint, when you have, the 3-year-old, the 5-year-old that's dropped off, you're at 100+ degrees right now. From a liability standpoint, you're still open for liability. If that kid's become dehydrated and has to go to the hospital, who's responsible? If we're watching the child, I mean, it seems to me everybody agrees that there should be some age that, if you're a 1-year-old, can they drop you off?
Well,
A
I think
3-year-old?
perhaps if the child can't swim across the pool, since I was little, it's been if you can't swim across the pool, you can't go to the deep end. But perhaps if they can't swim across the pool, they shouldn't be allowed in there at all without an adult. Because if they're not there to swim, they're there to be babysat. And I can't imagine, there aren't a lot of 4-year-olds who can swim, at least not swim very well.
Do we want to just punt it till next year, or we want to?
Well, I don't think we can take action tonight because I don't think we really know. There is a question, there are some kids at 12 that can look after themselves. But
Sure.
obviously a 6-year-old
But what about,
can't.
I mean, that was my question, do you want to at least put a minimum age on it today? If you're under 10, 12, 3, or just, finish out the year and set up a committee and go that way.
Well, I think we need to set up a committee, but I think you're right. We ought to put some minimum age on there, say if they're not accompanied by someone 16 or older, they can't come in.
I mean, I have an 11 and a 12-year-old, and I would feel comfortable with either one of them at the pool, but definitely not when they were, 7, 8, 9 years old.
What is, I mean, obviously it's going to depend on the kid, but
Whatever age you make a motion with, that's what age it is.
Just my experience with children of my own, I think probably in the 9-year-old range is when you can expect the majority of the children to have had enough water experience that they're proficient in the water. Less than that, probably 20% of the children can swim well at that age. Now, that's not scientific research, but It's just my experience.
Well, then I'll make a motion in two parts. Part A, that we adopt a policy that children under the age of 9 must be accompanied by someone 16 years of age or older.
So 8 and under.
And secondly, that we do appoint a committee, that the mayor appoint a committee to really check this all out, to see what other people are doing and to see whether that's the way we're going to deal with it or we're going to do something else.
Let's make that two motions, because
Right.
I'd have to go two ways.
Sure. The other question I have is this, Brad. If we vote on something today and we change this, does it take 30 days to take effect?
We're not making an ordinance, you're making a policy.
And so a policy would
So-
be instantaneous.
Right.
Putting up signs tomorrow, at least, the
You're
rest
just
of the week.
directing the
doing it.
city staff to initiate a policy would be
Okay.
effective immediately. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I'll divide it.
I have an initial motion that says children 8 and under must be accompanied by a person 16 or above. That is motion 1. Do I have a second for that motion?
Second.
May I please get a roll call vote for 8 and under accompanied by a 16-year-old?
I don't have a problem with the age. I still think they should be able to swim if they're left there.
But the only problem is once you pay your $1 to check in, you can't prove.
I don't mean they have to stay in the pool and swim the whole time, but
Sure.
I think if you're dropping an 8-year-old or 4-year, whoever you're dropping off, if they can't swim, why are they there?
But then if you had a 6-year-old that couldn't swim, his 18-year-old brother could be with him. That's the whole deal. You got to
Well,
be
then,
there.
they can have life jackets or whatever they have down in
Sure.
the end, as long as there's someone there with them.
I do have a motion and a second, and we'll vote on that one first. That was 8 and under, 16 or older with you. Roll call, please, Jay.
Bill Waltland,
Yes.
Chris Anson,
No.
Dee Dee Patterson,
No.
Gary Hout,
Yes.
Terry Thomason.
No.
Motion failed to pass.
Now, part 2 of the motion was to set up a committee to study this for future pool use. Do I have a second on that one?
So as far as to the end of the year,
It's the way that it is.
we are liable, basically.
Correct.
You have been all year.
We've been liable
Unless
for the
you-
last 60 years.
Unless you want to make a new,
I'll second that
different year.
motion.
Roll
On the
call, please,
committee.
Jay.
Bill Waltland,
Yes.
Chris Anson,
Yes.
Dee Dee Patterson,
Yes.
Gary Hout,
Yes.
Terry Thomason.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Do I have any other motions regarding the pool?
Oh, we can make another motion?
Sure.
I don't have a problem motioning the 9-year-old, but I still think that they should be able to swim.
Do you want to make that motion? With
Yes.
with swimming ability being expressed as what?
I think that you should have to swim across the
Who determines
the
it?
pool, the lifeguard,
Who determines
lifeguards.
they're qualified?
the lifeguards.
I don't
mean, they're the
think
one-
that's practical.
I didn't either, but he can still make a motion.
Oh, yeah.
No one has to second it, though. I do have a motion for 8 and under.
Well, that gives the lifeguard the ability, if there's a child hanging out there and they cannot swim, to tell them, you can't come back.
Correct.
We're not here to babysit you, you can't come back. They can tell the parent that.
So Chris, what do we do with, the parent just drops them off, leaves them, gives them money, go pay, they're gone.
It may happen once. They may have to sit there all day, and they're going to tell the parent they wouldn't let me they wouldn't let me in. I couldn't swim, or they can stay out at the session, whatever they do. Or they can call them. The parent should not be leaving them there without the ability to
But
get in touch with
the
them.
problem is, we just said that's all right. We just said, drop them off, we are the babysitter. I agree with you. I really thought that we would set an age limit, but